Welcome to the Red Zone Report, New Orleans Saints Podcast. This is our initial podcast, folks, so thank you for joining us. I am your host, Dave Denning, joined today by my co-hosts, Kyle Taylor and Dane Kerne. Today, we're going to be talking about a few different topics. We're going to be talking about the Saints' newest Hall of Fame members and who else from that team should and should not go into the Saints Hall of Fame. We're talking about the New Orleans Saints wide receiver number 2 position. Talk a little about the undrafted free agents the Saints have in camp. And then a little something fun at the end. Before we get started, guys, Kyle, tell the folks how they can find you on Twitter, a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, folks, you can find me at KT from504 on Twitter and all other social media platforms. I'm not interesting enough to give you guys a bio, so just check out my Twitter. Give your boy a follow. I follow back.
Dane, if you can do the same, just tell people how to find you on Twitter.
Absolutely. Name is Dane Kerne. My handle on Twitter is Son, S-O-N, of 71. Lifelong Saints fan. I love to chat and talk about the Saints, so any opportunity I get to do so is fun, and look forward to being part of the podcast and contributing as we head into what's going to be, I think, a very exciting Saints season.
All right, guys, as we get started, everybody listening, hit that subscribe button. You can follow us on Twitter at RZR Saints Pod, and check out the website we all are under at laredzzonereport.com. We're going to go ahead and get started here, guys. First thing we're going to talk about, we have 2 new members of the Saints Hall of Fame, and Marques Colston and Reggie Bush. Wanted to get y'all's thoughts on those 2 guys going in, and then we're going to go jump into who else maybe from that team could go in and who maybe should not go in. So, Kyle, your thoughts on the 2 new Saints Hall of Fame members?
I'm cool with it, man. I mean, Reggie Bush will always give me great memories, being that first draft pick after Katrina. He came in, and I think he had some super high expectations. But in my opinion, and I think most Saints fans' opinions, once you remove the emotion from it, he kind of held up to that expectation somewhat, and he did what he was kind of brought in to do. One of my fondest memories of Reggie Bush is during that 2009 season I think it was a screen pass against the Arizona Cardinals, where I've watched that film or that play like hundreds of times, slowed it down, and I still cannot figure out how he jipped the pants out of that one dude before he took it up the sideline. So Reggie Bush for sure. I mean, Colston, I don't even think that's up for debate, right? Going into that, Joe Horn was my favorite Saints receiver of all time, mixed in with a little Willie Jackson. I don't know how old most of you guys are, but if you remember Willie Jackson, he was one of my favorites. But Colston, I mean, is when you think of Saints wide receivers, he's definitely on the Mount Rushmore of Saints wide receivers. So I think both of these picks were no-brainers for the Saints Hall of
Fame. Dane, any differing opinion, same opinion? What you got?
No, definitely. What a wonderful team. The Bush and Colston, of course, excellent additions to the Hall of Fame. I've always really enjoyed Marques Colston, not only watching him play, him being so incredibly productive, and the way he handled himself too. Quiet storm. What a great demeanor he had. I love those kind of lunch pail guys. Just he does all his talking on the field. He always did. And then of course his backstory as well. 7th round draft selection out of Hofstra, the longest of long shots basically, and was able to make his way through what then was still, not the most talented Saints roster when he was drafted in 2006, but certainly made his mark. That the 2006 team, of course, will live on forever in Saints history for what they did, which was, in essence, the start of what's a golden age of Saints football, which continues to this day. Other members of that time frame, if you will, that I think would be excellent choices would be, as far as people like Will Smith, great person to keep in mind. But love watching those guys perform. Great representatives of the city, and as they both mentioned during their inductment speech the other day, how much they still enjoy representing the city. How the bond that they had with folks after Katrina. They understood they were playing for more than just football, and so as great ambassadors both on and off the field, you'd be hard-pressed to find 2 better choices than Bush and Colston.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you guys. I think Colston is an automatic no-brainer. Like you said, being a 7th-round pick out of Hofstra to, up until recently becoming, no doubt the best Saints receiver of all time. Obviously, Michael Thomas is going to, take that mantle and probably already has. But, to be, like you said, a 7th-round pick out of Hofstra, to come in and, become the number 1 receiver on the Saints team, become Drew Brees' number 1 target, become a huge part of, the best offense, numbers-wise to ever be in the NFL. You can't get much better than that. And to have you never heard for the kid. He was just always there. He was the exact opposite of what you see as a number 1 receiver these days in the NFL. He was just quiet, and that's why he was called the Quiet Storm. Reggie Bush, like you said, Kyle, he came in with expectations of this might be the best running back to ever play in the NFL. And it's really hard to meet those expectations. But he did some amazing things for the Saints. I think the story when he was drafted and him honestly not wanting to come to New Orleans, which is understandable back then after Katrina, but the greeting he got when he got to New Orleans, I think he was completely blown away by how much everybody immediately, wrapped their arms around him and wanted him as part of this city. And then he just took it from there, and he loved New Orleans, and you can tell he still does from his speech of being inducted. It's, I think it's 2 no-brainer, easy Hall of Fame guys. But jumping off from there, we start here. Just starters on that team. Do you think, if you were a starter on that 2009 team, do you guys think you should be in the Saints Hall of Fame for what they did for the franchise?
I'll go first. Dave, I think that's a great question. I think the easy answer is to say yes, because of what that team did. The whole team, though, I'm not so sure. I would go so far as to say the whole team, because being Super Bowl champions, of course, they accomplished something that no Saints team before or since has accomplished. But if we're talking about whole teams, I would not sleep on the 2006 team as well. In terms of big turnaround, I mentioned before, if there's a golden age in Saints football, it started in 2006. Yeah, we've had a couple of leaner years in there, but as far as being a competitive team, a productive team, a team that people year in, year out tab as a team to watch, I think 2009, of course, but I would be willing to go so far as to say 2006 should be considered as well. Love watching both teams, I know that. And, again, it's not the NFL Hall of Fame, it's the Saints Hall of Fame, so we get to define who, or the organization gets to define who deserves that honor, and I would be on board with considering both of those teams being inducted into the Saints Hall of Fame.
Kyle?
Put them all in there, man. Put the whole squad in there. Put the water boy. Put the equipment manager. Put them all in there, man. That 2009 squad did something for the city that we had never seen before. And like Dane said, that 2006 kind of started it. 2009 kind of brought it into fruition, and then we've kind of built off of that team, right? The core of that team, and kind of taking it back to last year and year before last, like that 2009 team was very similar to the team the previous 2 years, where we were a little bit more run oriented, and you see where it got us. But I'm all about it, man. But if you look at it from that team, you have 5 people already in the Hall of Fame. Well, I guess now 7 with Colston and Bush, because you got Pierre Thomas already in the Saints Hall of Fame. You got Will Smith, Lance Moore, Vilma, and then Nix, I want to say. Mm-hmm. So right there, you got 7 folks in the Hall of Fame already. You definitely got to throw Garrett Hartley in there, right? Because it was his big kick that got us to the Super Bowl. Only person I wouldn't put in there is Mike Bell, but I put Mike Bell in there, but we won't put his cleats in there. We put him in the Hall of Fame.
There you go.
I think there's one person we're forgetting about that you cannot put in the Hall of Fame, as much as we might want to, and as much as he meant to that team.
Who's that?
That's Darren Sharper.
Yeah, I can't disagree with you there.
I'm more on Kyle's side of putting as many guys from that team as possible into the Hall of Fame. But you just can't do Darren Sharper, no matter if he's ever out. In my opinion, I don't know that he ever should be. I don't know his sentencing situation anymore. I forgot what happened to him, but regardless of that fact, no.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Dude
was unreal.
Yeah,
he was unreal. But
I erased him from my memory.
I mean, and I did too until I was looking at. I was like, man, I'm gonna remember some of the names that I forgot, and I was scrolling and I went, oh, nope.
Yeah.
I was like, we can't put that dude in the Hall of Fame. There's absolutely no way he's getting a car ride around the Superdome with a big picture, and I mean that's just not happening.
No.
But as far as the rest of them, I think for the most part, yes. I think every other starter, yep. I think Garrett Hartley, yep. I think Robert Meacham, yep. I mean, he may not have started, but yeah, I think he goes in. Devery Henderson, yeah. I mean, I think a lot of those guys for what they did. Devery was a part of the 06 team too.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's double for him. So I think a lot of those guys, yeah, I think they should get that honor of being in the Saints Hall of Fame for doing something that, I mean, honestly, I mean, I've been doing this a while, following the Saints. I didn't think it was going to ever happen.
No, me neither. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But yeah, 2006 gave us a taste, and then I was kind of a believer after that, but I never thought it would happen in my lifetime while I was such a young man to kind of witness it, appreciate it, and be in it, right? I thought it was going to happen when I was an old man in my rocking chair and, just win the Super Bowl, and then I just fall off to sleep and die a happy man.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 2009, just real quickly, is such an enjoyable season for so many reasons. To me, hey, I love the 2006 ride. Nobody saw that coming, making it as far as they did with that team. But with 2009, that was one of those seasons where, and it doesn't always work out this way, but one of those seasons where the Saints were clearly a top 2, top 3 team right out the gate. They had a dominant season, and to end it with a Super Bowl victory and winning it in the manner in which they did. I mean, basically 2 other teams that you could have cited that were just as dominant that year, with the Vikings and then, of course, ultimately with the Colts. Saints had the opportunity to face them and to beat them on the field. So nothing fluky about that championship. It was a great ride. And, yeah, as far as just the fans and memories and thinking about how much they enjoyed that ride, absolutely the entire team except for Sharper. That's a very good point, Dave. Because I'll tell you, to this day, when I go back and look at old videos, and of course, I'm sure like you guys, I've got anything that was put out Super Bowl champion 2009 Saints, I've got a copy of. So, but you're right. You go back and you look at some of those things, and you see a highlighted of Sharper, and just kind of cringe, So I'm on board with that, guys, and great choice. Whole team definitely deserves to be in.
All right. I think we agree, everybody except for Sharper. That's something that just can't be done. I'd be fine with anybody else that said, hey, we're going to put Mike McKenzie in the Saints Hall of Fame. Okay. I'd be like, yeah, you know what? He was on that team. That's fine. He may not have finished the season, but you know what? Yep, we'll put him in. I'm fine. So we'll go ahead and move on, guys, to today's Saints team and talk about what, I think one of the big topics for going forward, especially through camp and preseason, is going to be, and that's, who is going to be, if anybody, because I don't think we had it last year, the number 2 wide receiver. And I'm talking wide receiver, not pass catcher, nothing like that. Number 2 wide receiver for the Saints. So start with Kyle last time. Dane, we'll start with you this time. Dane, who do you think is going to be the number 2 receiver for the Saints this year?
Absolutely. And great comment you made there a second ago, Dave. Right, because if you ask pass catchers, well, the answer is going to be a little different. I think we all know who's going to be the number 2 threat, basically, as far as pass catchers are concerned. But straight number 2 wide receiver, I think personally the battle really involves 3, maybe 4 players. Of course, Ted Ginn coming back off of a bit of an injury-riddled challenge campaign last year. Sean Payton still has, whenever you hear a coach use the word or the term vision for a player, then you need to sit up and pay attention. And he definitely has a vision for Ted in this offense. Some of the reports we've seen just coming out of some of the minicamp practices and whatnot, his involvement, he will be heavily involved. And, of course, we've certainly seen some of the references recently to his off-season training He's working out with the same trainer down in Miami that Alvin's working with, so he's putting in the work that seems to suggest he expects a heavy load this year. And I think given his experience and his comfort level in the offense, as long as he's physically okay, given his speed, he's got to be, I think, the first choice. Of course, we got to see what happens with Tre'Quan Smith's progression from year 1 to year 2. I thought he put in a really solid rookie campaign, and he is certainly working hard to take advantage of the opportunity that his jump from the first year to the second year gives him. Going down the list a little bit, I guess you still have to say Cam Meredith, but those chances seem to be fading almost by the week. You know, the Meredith that we saw in Chicago, who was a contributor and I think was a worthwhile addition in free agency last year, just doesn't seem to be able to get 100% right physically. I understand he was still working off to the side recently during some of these camp practices, but we'll see how he rounds into form come training camp, and I think that's going to be the tell. And then finally, Emmanuel Butler has some interesting physical gifts and attributes. But for a Saints team and an offense really that is in win-now mode, I think he's the longest shots. I'm not sure, even though last year we saw some real contributions from the rookies and whatnot. I don't know if we'll see Emmanuel Butler getting the opportunity to win the starting role, at least coming out of training camp.
All right, I agree with a lot of what you said. Kyle, what do you got?
So Dane, I love the way you dance. But I'm going to need you to stand on somebody and give me one. Who you got?
I'm going with Ted Ginn.
Ted Ginn. All right. Honestly, I am going with Cam Meredith. Like you, I kind of went back and forth between Ginn and Meredith and kind of looking back at the numbers. Ginn missed, 10, 11 games. I think 11 games last year. And he was still the third most targeted wide receiver last year. So this says a lot in Drew Brees' confidence in Ted Ginn. But I honestly think with Cam Meredith coming off that ACL, I do believe that ACL injuries are truly 2-year injuries to come back 100% from, mentally as well as physically. And him dealing with ankle issues last year. But I don't think that one season in Chicago was a fluke. So my money is on Cam Meredith. I like his odds over Ginn just because of the youth. And the position he'll play and the importance of that position within the Saints offense. So I'm putting my money on Cam Meredith to take that number 2 spot this year.
All right. Well, I'll go ahead and for different sakes, I'll take Tre'Quan Smith. I think he showed a lot last year. I think the Saints playbook is probably the hardest to pick up of any offense in the NFL. I think that was part of Cam Meredith's problem last year. I think that might still continue to be his problem, is picking up all of the intricacies that is playing for the Saints offense. All of the audibles, all of the, where am I supposed to be? There's not a lot of, patience for, I don't get this. You have to come in, you have to be ready to go. Drew Brees and Sean Payton don't have a lot of patience for that. And I think that was part of Cam's problem last year in addition to the injury. Now, I could be wrong. He would be my number 2 pick, but I'm going to go with Tre'Quan Smith being the second year at a UCF. I think he's going to step in and have a really big year. He made some big catches last year for the Saints. I think, going through an off season, being, part of the program the whole time, I think Drew's going to have a lot more confidence in him. Like you said, last year for Ted Ginn to be the second most targeted receiver and play less than half the games, yes, it shows a lot about how much he likes Ted Ginn, but it also shows how much he did not like anybody else out there that wasn't Michael Thomas.
Absolutely.
So I think, having another year with Tre'Quan Smith, building that trust, Tre'Quan, learning the playbook more, learning more about, aside from just one position, learning all the positions, learning where he's supposed to be. I think he has the opportunity to take the biggest step forward of anybody on the team and be somebody that can be a huge contributor and hopefully get into that. We need a wide receiver to make 40 to 50 catches. We don't need another 100-catch guy. We need somebody that can do 40 to 50 catches and take some of that responsibility off of Michael Thomas. Now, of course, I said the number 2 wide receiver for a reason. because if I would have said the number 2 pass catcher on the Saints, everybody would have said Jared Cook.
Right.
And it would have been a very easy answer, because that's going to be the guy that's going to probably catch the second most passes on the team. But that's why I wanted to go with the wide receiver, because that's much more of a question mark than anything else on this team.
Absolutely. I actually would have gone Alvin Kamara, but yeah. Jared Cook was my 1A to that Alvin Kamara answer. But yeah, I agree with all you guys, honestly. And by the Saints kind of not addressing that in free agency, I know they kind of kicked the tires on Adam Humphries a little bit out of Tampa Bay, who ended up signing with the Titans. But I think his price tag got a little too high. And that's something that I've learned to respect about this new Saints regime. Is before they would write a blank check to anybody as long as they wanted the guy, and we saw that put us in cap hell for some years. This regime has gotten away from that. They got a lot better at coming up with a price tag, and hey, if you fall under that, cool. If not, may the Lord bless you. And then also the fact that they passed up on a lot of pass catchers wide receivers in the draft this year. So it tells me that Peyton and company have a lot of confidence in somebody in-house, and I think it's one of those 3 guys we named, maybe even Keith Kirkwood.
That would be more of a reach, in my opinion. I think Kirkwood, I think they were happy with what they got out of him last year, but I don't see the potential for him to be a number 2 wide receiver in the NFL. I can see him making a catch here and there. You can see how excited the guys were for him when he made a catch last year. So I just don't think there's that top end expectations for him. And I mean, honestly, I could be completely wrong, because it's the NFL. You never know who's going to show up and be like, man, where'd that guy come from? You know, and I think that's, kind of piggybacking on what you said about the Saints, passing up the high-priced guys. And I'm going to take this into our next topic. And I think it's a lot of because they're very, very good at, when the draft's over, picking off those guys that didn't get drafted and bringing them into camp, bringing in the undrafted rookies. And a couple of those guys always making the team. We actually had, by some accounts, I don't know how you rate this, but, the best undrafted rookie class. Okay, I mean, I don't really know what that means, because none of these guys got drafted, so how are they the best? But, I think we did bring in a lot of guys people had heard of, which is good, and a lot of guys that people thought, maybe should have been drafted but weren't. So we're going to jump into, our last topic, which is the undrafted rookie that we each think we're going to pick one that we think will make the team. And I haven't gotten to go first yet today, so I'm going to go first on this, and none of y'all steal my person. And my guy the whole time, and we just talked about the position, is Lil'Jordan Humphrey out of Texas. I think he's got the size, the speed to make this team. I think he has the ability to take somebody like Keith Kirkwood and make him a free agent. I think coming out of Texas, he didn't see as many passes as he should have, because you had a quarterback that was more, one read and run. I think he's got the ability, the hands, the speed, the route running to make this team that everybody's looking for. Now, of course, he's going to have to make that noise in camp, and then he's going to have to get to preseason and be able to see enough time on the field and make enough of a difference on the field for people to want him on, for Sean Payton to want him on the team. But I think that's my pick, is Lil'Jordan Humphrey. We'll go reverse order from what we just did. Dane went first last time. Kyle, you'll get to make your pick now.
Okay. I like the Lil'Jordan Humphrey pick. I really think you hit on a good point. Him coming from a run-first offense, what Sean Payton loves more than anything out of his wide receivers is the fact that they can block, right? So I think that element is gonna boost Lil'Jordan into the 53-man roster. And I've said this many times before.
He has the best name on the team.
Exactly. I love dude's name, so I just need him to be a Saint just so I can say that every Sunday up until now through February. But I'm going a little differently from you, and I feel like I'm kind of taking the easy route here. But whatever. Sorry, Dane, if we got the same fit. But I'm going Carl Granderson. 6'5", 261 pounds out of Wyoming. I really think this guy would have been a late-round pick. We know the Saints love their late-round undrafted free agent edge rushers. And I just think his pending case is the real reason why he kind of went undrafted. But Jeff Ireland said they have this new system in place as far as detecting personality and whatnot. And Granderson obviously passed. Saints have a lot of confidence in him, giving him the most money of all undrafted free agents. They gave him $70,000 with a $15,000 signing bonus. So I think that says a lot about their confidence in him as well. And then not bringing back Alex Okafor and replacing or addressing that edge position opposite side of Cam Jordan, and hopefully Marcus Davenport slides into that role. But my lack of confidence in T-Rex, Trey Henderson, and nobody else coming in during free agency, I think Carl Granderson is going to be that guy. If you look at the Saints and their history of undrafted free agents that normally make the team, it's usually one of three positions, right? Wide receiver, which you took Lil'Jordan, Dave, rush, and then running back. So I really think Granderson has the biggest shot at making the team. I did a little research looking at his numbers. His numbers were similar to Beltman, Junior Gillette, when he came out of Temple. Gillette had 139 tackles, 27 tackles for loss, 19 sacks throughout his college career. Granderson had 173 tackles, 35.5 tackles for loss, and then 16.5 sacks. So the production was there, especially later on in his college career. So I think Kasim Edebali and Junior Gillette walked, so Carl Granderson could run.
All right, Dane.
Awesome.
If we took your two, pick a third one, but who you got?
I'm going to stay on the same side of the ball as Kyle, and I'm going to go with Chase Hansen. When I look at undrafted free agents, especially those who are signed by teams that are really talented and have pretty solid depth at many different levels, like the Saints do, look for opportunities to work into that position group and contribute into, as special teams obviously is going to be a big part of any undrafted free agent making the team. I know the Saints took Caden Ellis with that last pick in the draft. I see that as being a battle between Hansen and Ellis. And, of course, Vince Beagle, who was a contributor in special teams last year as well, for a spot in that linebacking core. Remember, Saints let Manti Te'o walk in free agency, so I think there's an opportunity there for a young, athletic linebacker like Hansen. He certainly is. Hansen's a bit of a tweener. At least he was considered that going into the draft season. Maybe a bit between sort of a larger, strong safety and an undersized will linebacker, which I think is a great attribute to have in today's NFL, with teams going obviously very heavy 11 personnel packages, but spreading teams out. Defenses having to respond by going and playing more nickel and even dime packages than they would what we would consider to be base defensive. And Chase, I think, from an athletic standpoint, has the skills, and we'll see how that translates onto the field now that he's playing on the next level, where maybe relying on that athleticism is not going to make as much of a difference as it did in college. I do like, speaking of his college background, I like that he showed a strong ability to cover in a conference like the Pac-12, which is a very pass-heavy conference. So that's my pick. I'm going with Chase as the guy to keep an eye on as an undrafted free agent.
All right. Well, we will mark each of our picks down. We'll keep an eye on them going forward, see how they produce in camp, and see who, if any of us, if all three of us, because the Saints have been known to take that many, 2 of us, 3 of us, none of us are right. And we'll have our little celebration on top of the other people if we're right and the other person's wrong. We are going to finish today with a little something that Kyle came up with for our program that we're going to give it a shot. We're going to try and give our program a little something different. We're going to start with this. Kyle basically calls it, when you get down to it, it's would you rather. I'm going to let each of you guys have a crack at this. Just due to time constraints, we're just going to do you two guys. But Kyle, since it's your idea, I'm going to let you go first.
All right, Dane, it's kind of your hazing moment. You're under the spotlight first. You ready?
I'm ready.
All right, man. So, would you rather a son who has a Hall of Fame career with the Atlanta Falcons, or a career backup who never touches the field for the Saints?
Well, yeah, you're right. It is my kind of my hazing moment. I know this is a bold statement, but I don't know if you'll find a Saints fan who hates the Atlanta Falcons more than I do. So, I would say, son, you know what? You made the NFL. Even as a career backup. I mean, look, especially if you're like a backup quarterback, which is one of the sweetest jobs I think you can get in the NFL. You're cashing that check. You playing at the highest level and all that kind of stuff. But no, I can't. I can't deal with the son playing. I don't care if it's a Hall of Fame career with the Falcons or not.
Let's go, Dane. Round of applause.
Cannot do that. So yeah, career backup with the Saints, absolutely. And that's not even a question. So good question.
My man. Dave, what side of the fence are you on?
You see, I have two boys. They both play competitive sports. Now, they're at a pretty high level right now. They're 12 and 15. They're soccer players. Now, they're not going to play for the MLS, so they're not going to play for the Atlanta team in the MLS. They're not that talented. They're good kids. They're good soccer players, but they're not at that level. But being a dad and having them have been kind of in the last couple of years bounced around from a couple of different clubs that at first I didn't have great opinions of, having been on the other side of them from before, and enjoying watching them so much and just wanting them to have the most success possible. And you see where I'm going with this.
Yeah.
And Dane, I agree. I am probably tied with you for my dislike of the Atlanta Falcons. It's just, you know what? I will make 28-3 jokes for the rest of my life, and I may put it in my obituary. But if it's my kid, I want them to have the most success possible. I want them, if I can say, hey, my kid is a Hall of Fame football player, I don't care what team he plays for. I don't. And I know that's going to be sacrilegious to some of the people listening to this, and it's probably sacrilegious to the two of you. But if he's going to be think about that. Think about how many people play football and then how many people make it to the Hall of Fame. And to say my kid did that, I can't. I would not be able to say no. I wouldn't be all right with that because of who he played for. I mean, look at some of the, where, you have guys that played football and where their kids play. Look at, New Orleans guys I think the perfect example, and he's not our kid, but Deion Jones, who plays for the Falcons now, went to the same high school as me. Now, granted, he's a whole lot younger than me, but, I went and watched him when he played. He was unbelievable. He went to LSU, where everybody loved him. And now he's a Falcon.
And guess
now,
what?
nobody likes him right now. But if he has an amazing career, and somehow, I don't think it'll end up there, but if his career ended up in Canton, you don't think New Orleans is claiming that boy? Yeah. They are. I'm telling you they are. And I'm telling you LSU fans are claiming that man once his career is over. Right now, no. When his career is over, they will.
And
if that's my kid, I guarantee you his mama is all kinds of proud of that boy right now wearing that Falcon jersey. I guarantee you it's happening.
No. Would you wear a Falcons jersey? Would you wear his Falcons jersey to every game, or would you just show up?
Now you're pushing. Now you might be pushing your luck.
All right. I gave you a little leeway because Dane, he's taking the cop-out answer, Dane, because Father's Day is coming up and he doesn't want his boys to hear it. And he end up with a macaroni necktie for the next 20 years of his life.
Yeah, it's sketchy as it is around here, but no. I couldn't say that. I have to let him have his Hall of Fame career, even if it's for the Falcons.
Who that nation may not like that, man, but
I know. Hey, I gotta be honest. Dane, what's your question for the two of us?
It's funny because I came across this question the other day, so I tabbed it as one to ask here, and it also involves the team that the three of us love to hate. Would you rather, if you had a choice, would you rather have a guaranteed Super Bowl win this year? Saints in win now mode, arguably the most talented team in the league. Wouldn't be a shock if they win, but if somehow the football gods could say, all right, I'm going to guarantee you guys are going to win it all this year, but the price of that is it guarantees a Falcons Super Bowl victory next year. Are you in?
You know what? I'm taking it. Give it to me. Yeah, and I want Breeze to go out on top, get another Super Bowl, you know what I mean, to kind of solidify his place in the Hall of Fame and end all of this. Is he, one of the all-time greats? He's the GOAT in New Orleans, and I think the talking heads over at the major sports networks don't give him as much respect. Half the time they don't even acknowledge his one ring. But I think if he gets another and kind of walks out on his own terms after that, I'd be great with that. And as far as if the sacrifice with that is the Falcons getting them one, so be it. Even a broken clock is right twice a day.
I agree.
Yeah, I think I'd have to agree with Kyle. I mean, if you give us, the Super Bowl this year, I don't know how many Saints fans would pass it up based on what's happened the last 2 years.
Right.
With the possibility, going into the season with, kind of open-ended, not knowing. Yeah. I mean, I take the Super Bowl because, I think, like you said, it would be Drew Brees going out on top. I think it'd be the end of his time here. So I think, the next year would be, while not rebuilding, I think it would definitely be a step back for us. So there wouldn't be that expectation of winning the Super Bowl again. And like you said, if that's what it takes for us, to have a Super Bowl, okay. All right, they can have their one. And I'm still going to make 28-3 jokes, but they can have their one. But yeah, I'd agree. I'd take the Super Bowl. I definitely would. All right, guys. That is going to wrap up our inaugural New Orleans Saints podcast on Red Zone Report. I hope everybody listening did enjoy it. If you did enjoy, you can follow each of us individually. I am on Twitter at Denning_Dave. Kyle is at KT from 504. Dane is at Son of 71. If you do like us, you can also consider making a donation on the support tab at LA'sRedZoneReport.com. The more you support us, the more content we can do, such as guests, such as more specials, things like that. There are a lot of podcasts on the Red Zone Report. We have, in addition to our Saints podcast, we have a fantasy podcast, we have a Pelicans podcast coming, we have an LSU podcast starting up. So lots of good stuff, lots of good written content on there as well that you can pick up. So please head on over, check it out. But for today, I am Dave, along with Kyle and Dane. And again, this is the Red Zone Report New Orleans Saints podcast, and you all have a great day.
Stay petty, Saints fans.